Greetings to the viewers and subscribers. I would like to welcome you to the continuation of part 2 video of catering and 6 theory. So last time we discussed the types of menus. So I also wanted to include some of the things that you also should have considered when you are studying. So ensure that you know the breakfast menus. The breakfast menus are your continental, your English breakfast, your American breakfast. As I said, that catering and 6 mostly it focuses on nutrition and for content, especially module 1. So you would want to ensure that you know those things: American breakfast, the English breakfast, what it consists of, what is a continental breakfast. You must be able to distinguish. So I'm not gonna be explaining those things, guys, because we have covered them on nutrition and for. So ensure that you just know those things. So I think on N6 they just gave us a champagne breakfast. So a champagne breakfast, I think this one is the addition of other breakfast menus. So a champagne breakfast is a morning or a midday meal where champagne is served along with the food. So a champagne breakfast, it's normally prepared for special occasions or celebrations. So a champagne breakfast, it's a breakfast that is prepared for a special occasion or celebration. For instance, let's say you are expecting a newborn at your house or at your home. So in the morning, you would want to pop a champagne to welcome a newborn, to say, finally the newborn has arrived. So we are going to celebrate a new life. So we will be having a champagne breakfast. Then a brunch, you already know. I'm not going to be explaining what is a brunch. It's a combination of breakfast and lunch. Then tasting menu. What is a tasting menu? A tasting menu, let's say you want to open a butchery and you will be processing your own wors. So in order for you to see that your wors meets what people will expect, you're going to do a tasting menu. You're gonna offer people a free tasting. So people, while they are passing nearby your butchery, you can just offer them a piece of wors to taste and to rate it. So basically that's what a tasting menu is. So if you want to introduce something new to your establishment, before you even sell it, you need to have customers rating it, right? You need to have reviews on customers' thoughts. What do they think about the type of menu that you want to introduce? You don't just introduce a new thing and no one has rated it according to the reviews or anything. So you must ensure that whatever you want to introduce, it gets tested before and tasted by customers, so that they are super in love with it. So then the dinner, supper menu, you already know those things. Then those difference between high tea and afternoon tea, you must also go back to your N4 nutrition. So I think as we move, I think you all can see that it's a repetition of N4 content. So these are the things that we have covered on our nutrition. So the high tea, afternoon tea, you must know the difference, that the other one is formal, the other one is informal, the other one is served with cookies, and the other one it's drank after sweeteners, snacks, and You just have to know the difference. Go look for the difference, or you can just study it if you don't know the difference. It's there in your textbook for N6 and on your previous textbook, nutrition. So we have discussed these subtopics. So now we will be diving into the different types of sweeteners. So I will be explaining these different types of sweeteners. So this normally come as a matching column of 20 marks. They can make it 20 marks, because 5 5 5 5, it's like 2 marks 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 2 marks. So it can be a question of 20 marks. You need to match the right product. For instance, they can give you example instead of giving you the meaning. Then you need to match with the correct term. So before you even know the examples, you must first know the definition of a glucose, a fructose, a sucrose, maltose, honey, isolamate, maltitol, all these terms. So I'm going to be explaining them to you so that you have a picture of what we are dealing with. So this type of sweeteners, the first column, we have nutrific sweeteners. So nutrific sweeteners is where we will be focusing mostly on calories. So calories, it's a sweetness that sustain us with a lot of energy. So we when we consume more of calories, we want to get that extraction of energy, and we know that this type of sweetness, they often it's like drinking Powerade or drinking Super C. So we normally get this type of sweetness, nutrific sweetness. So the first one being the glucose under the nutrific sweetness. So a glucose is a simple sugar in a source. Is a simple sugar that is a source of energy, right? You normally going to find it in drinks or grapes. So the typical example for glucose, it can be they can put grape, just to see if you know that grapes consist of what? Glucose. So here's a catch. You must note down that I'm saying grape. So if you are new to this video, guys, please ensure you start from the first video, as I always recommend that each and everyone who's watching videos on YouTube, regardless of any content, you must be having a pen and a scribble for taking necessary notes. You can't just listen and think you would remember everything, guys. So ensure you have a pen and a scribble for taking necessary notes that you think might be helpful to you. And also show some love by subscribing and turning on that notification bell. So as I continue, a glucose, I said, is a simple sugar that is a source of energy. It's mostly found in drinks or grapes. So here they can just give you a drink on a matching column. They can just put a drink, or they can just write grape. So those two, grape and a drink, they fall under what? Glucose. They consist of glucose. They are the type of sweetener that you would find in drinks and grapes. It's glucose. So moving to the other one, which is the fructose. A fructose is a natural fruit sugar. Is more sweet. That is more sweeter than glucose. So think of the most sweet fruit that is sweeter than grape. I would go for mango. So I would say mango is the sweetest fruit that I have eaten in my life. So orange, if you get the red orange, it's, you know that orange, it's sweet compared to grapes. Grapes, they have that sour thing. They have that sour thing. They're not that sweet, but they have that sour taste in them. You would find that sourness, that bitterness when you're eating grapes. So they're saying that fructose are more sweeter than glucose, which is these are the natural sweet taste that are extracted from fruits. So you get them from fruits. So remember, fructose, any fruit, they can put an apple, they can put orange, they can put a mango, they fall under fructose. Remember, a grape is not a fructose, but rather a glucose. Why? Because it has that bitterness or sweetness, which is sourish in it. So we're going to put grape on glucose, rather putting it on fructose. So on fructose, you will be having examples of mango, banana. You're going to any fruit that is not sour or bitter in terms of tasting. So that is the fruit that will fall under fructose. So sucrose is an ordinary stable sugar made from both glucose and fructose. So a normal sugar, it can be a white sugar or a brown sugar. The making of sugar, we all know that sugar is extracted from what? Sugar cane. So normally sugar is an extracted product from sugar cane. It's processed and into solid formation. So it's processed to be as solid, not as liquid. So but the extraction of it comes from sugar cane. The sugar cane gets boiled, then the sugar, when it starts burning, it will form something like a gelatin. Then you're going to dry it. Once you dry it, you will fry it, and it will become some solid particles. We're going to have sugar solid particles from drying that sugar cane juice that you have extracted from sugar cane. So sucrose, it's a combination of both. This sugar can be extracted from oranges, from apples. So it's a solid particles that consist of both. They can also be extracted from what? From grapes. So the combination of the two. So glucose and fructose make sucrose. So always remember that when you see sucrose, it means sucrose. It means you must think of sugar. Sucrose, sugar, a normal sugar that you use to make tea. So normally they can put examples of coffee or tea. So they might say sucrose. You need to match the item that best suits sucrose. So in here you're going to match what? Any example which is tea, coffee, it will come here. So if they give you tea or coffee, you would match it with your sucrose. So your maltose is a sugar formed when starch is broken down. Here we're going to be having examples of beer and cereals. So certain cereals, when the starch is broken down, you start having that sweeter taste. So a maltose is a type of nutritive sweetener that comes from what? Starchy product that have broken down. So maltose, we know that anything that has to do with starch. Once we see cereals, we matching it with what? Maltose. If we see a beer, we're going to match it with what? With maltose, because a formation of beer, you need that wheat. So beer, it's processed using wheat. So you know that wheat is example of a starchy product. So we use wheat in making a beer. So yeah, maltose, any starchy product can be a beer or I said can be a beer or cereals. So they might give you that example to match it. So you don't want to lose your 2 marks. Those are 2 marks that you must be able to take away from the exam. And then the honey, the last part is the honey. So a honey or a syrup these are the natural liquid sweeteners containing different types of sugars. So they are the natural liquid sweeteners containing different type of sugars. So guys, ensure that you also know the definition. As I'm defining it to you, you must be able to know the difference between you must be able to define them. You must be able to define the terms. As I was explaining, I was giving explanation. So you must take the explanation and take the example. You must know the two, so that if the exam writes the explanation, my explanations are brief, but whatever exam the examiner is going to put on the table, those points are gonna be there. They must be there. So they are parts of explaining glucose, fructose, maltose, and honey. And then coming to the polyes, we have number one. So we're going to have a erythritol. So erythritol. So you might struggle in pronouncing them, as I also struggle with some certain words, because certain words are new to me, and I won't shy away and want to be perfect, guys. So never chase perfection, as long as you can have understanding behind the word. That's all that matters. If you understand what the word means, or what the word refers to, so you don't have to stress about pronouncing it correctly. So you read it the way you read it, pronounce it the way you pronounce it, but the fact of the matter, you must be able to understand and explain it. So this one is a very low in calories, e.g. sugar-free drinks. So this type of polyes, which is erythritol, it's found in sugar-free cold drinks, which is, I didn't want to say cold drinks, but the example for it can be no sugar, Coke Zero, Coke Zero, right? It can be example of erythritol, and the example there can be a Coke Zero. It's normally found on cold drinks that contains lesser sugar. So the isomalt, so the isomalt, it's used in hard candles. It does not absorb moisture easily. So the isomalt is used in hard candles. It does not absorb moisture easily. So this one is a type of sweetness that is used for making candles. So the reason there are those fancy candles that they smell sweet, this is the type of the sweetener that you find in that candles, which is the isomalt. So isomalt is the type of polyes that you would find in a candle, right? So that smell that is sweet, it comes from isomalt. So maltitone. So a maltitone, it tastes similar to sugar, often used in making of chocolates. So a maltitone, it tastes similar to sugar, but it's often used in making of chocolate. So the making of chocolate, it does not necessarily involve the sugar. the sucrose, which is the sugar, the table sugar that we normally use on a daily basis, but rather when making a chocolate you will need a maltitol. So a maltitol tastes like the normal sugar, but it often used in making chocolates. So the example they can be making of chocolate, and then I said the islo malt can be candles. They can put candles, a sweet. They can put a rosy candle. So because of a rosy candle, it means it will smell. It has that sweet smell, that rosy smell. You know that it's a islomet or islomet, whichever you call it. And then I said on the erythritol, which is the one that they can put Coke Zero or a no sugar Coke, a no sugar drink. The examiner would highlight if it's a no sugar Coke. It's either they're going to put images or they're going to put definitions, but definitely the matching column can be there, and it's always these two things, they normally come up whether on a matching column or true or false. They're gonna be there, or sometimes they can be on one word, depending on how the examiner wanted to set the question paper. And then the sorbitol helps keep food moist. These are the sweeteners that are used in making of toothpaste or chewing gum. So the examples of sorbitol are your bubble gums, your chlorets, your toothpaste. The reason a toothpaste has some sweetness in it is because of the sorbitol. So here, a toothpaste can be an example for a sorbitol. A bubble gum also falls under a sorbitol. So you must note the examples and know that a sorbitol, it's a sugar that is found in a bubble gum or toothpaste. And then xylitol. So a xylitol, it's good for a dental health. It reduces tooth decay, sugar-free chewing gum. So a xylitol, I don't know how you're going to call it, but a xylitol, it's like buying those expensive bubble gums, which I would make reference with Orbit, the bubble gum that normally does not taste like other bubble gums. That one is very hot, man. I think yes, I wouldn't say it's sweet, but I would say the taste of it is too refreshing. It tastes like you're eating you're chewing Colgate. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's all it matters. You just need to know the examples, and you must able to spot that which one is which. So basically, the difference between those things, it's you knowing the examples and knowing which one falls under which, because this question can be a 20 marks question, which the examiner likes putting it on your final exams, or you might even find it on your test 2 or test 1. We don't know. And then factors influencing food and drink choices. This one is also nutrition. You would remember the nutrition. It contains the same points as factors influencing food and drink choices. So what influences are the food that we eat and the drink choices. Number one, it's age, nutritional needs, time of the day, knowledge, money, likes and dislikes, environment, special occasions, allergy or intolerance. So Those are the factors that influence food and drink choice. So you must know them. Here, examiner can give you 8 or can give you 6. So or can ask you to name 5. We don't know, but I think knowing a maximum of 8, yeah, it will set you free in terms of not leaving any mark for the exam. So those factors are there in your nutrition. You have this. Some of the things are repetition of what you already have learned in N4. So it must be a touch up. You are just reminding yourself some of the things. So I think module 1, there are only few things that you would be focusing on. There are a very few things that are new here that you will be focusing on. But most of the things are the things that you've discovered in N4. So this is just a revision for you guys. You must take it as a revision. And then we're going to define emergency planning. What is emergency planning? This you're going to find it in a one-word question, or it can be asked on any question. They can say define what emergency planning is. So emergency planning, this is the course of the action a company takes in order to minimize the effect of the incident or crisis. So emergency planning, in simple English, you can say emergency planning is a planning that the establishment plans in terms of unexpected incidents or crisis. So unexpected incidents or crisis, I think that's how best I could have simplified it for you guys. So a emergency plan is a plan that a establishment uses for incidents or for unexpected emergencies. So that's a emergency. That's what emergency planning is. So it needs to have incident or crisis, and it needs to have a to stabilize the situation. Can be stabilizing the situation. I think that's what you need to know about emergency planning, but it's often 2 marks. So yeah, I just wrote it there for you to know that you say certain things they must just come. When you are writing, you must not waste time in terms of studying them often. So you must just recall and you move on just like that. So emergency sources. What are emergency sources? Emergency sources are the things that could replace, let's say, electricity. If there's no electricity, how can I cook food? If there's no electricity, we know that electricity does not stop us from cooking food. So which other energy sources can we use to cook food? And here you would know that we make the use of gas, which is number 1. Number 2, we can use candles, not for cooking food but for lighting. Also fire, natural fire, it's also a part of the energy source that you can use. But here I wouldn't say fire is a good example, because fire is not a energy source that you use. Fire requires you to have wood, matches, to start up a fire. You require a lot of things. But I guess is a free natural source, which is we can extract gas from the atmosphere. And then solar. Yes, we can use solar if we have solar stoves. Nowadays we have solar fridges. We have a lot of things are integrated in terms of making use of the modern technology, which is we are likely to see many things developing to solar energies, right? Instead of only relying on electricity, now we can make use of solar. We know that we use electricity, then the other one is gas. So for energy sources, I would just name those three. Yeah, that is your 3 marks that you would need. It's solar, gas, and electricity. And then candles for lighting. You can also mention that, candles for lighting. So how to purify water? How do you purify water? So number one, we're going to use a filter to purify water. We're going to need a system that contains of a filter that is going to that is going to remove a substance impute. So number one, you need a filter that will help you remove suspended impurities. You need a filter that will help you remove suspended impurities. Or you're going to say you boil water and filter it after it has cooled. So that's the first point that you could say. You boiled water and then you're going to filter it after it has cooled. So that is your number one in terms of purifying your water. Then number two, any household bleach can be used. So yes, guys, the jig that you use to wash dishes, it can be used because it consists of 5% sodium hypochlorite. So it contains of 5% sodium hypochlorite. So normally the water that you drink, it consists of bleach, so it's being bleached. So any household bleach, it can be used to purify water. You must know that. You must not have these arguments with people who don't know the science behind the things that they eat or they drink. Because when you are a hospitality student, if they do not know, you can just inform them that you know that purified water can consist of a bleach, which is a jig. I can purify water using a jig, but you need to have certain measurements that you need to follow so that the water can be 100% purified. So you cannot just set the jig anyhow, and then you think that people must drink water that tastes like jig. No, guys. But any bleach which is in your household can be used for purifying water, only if you follow the guidelines of how many measurement you need to take from the jig and how many liters you need of water to insert that jig. Then number 3, we have purification tablets. So purification tablets can be used to purify water. So examiner can give you 6 marks for this question. So how do we purify water? It can be a 6-mark question. You must be able to know how to purify water. That's your 6 marks, clean. And then here we are going to be focusing on hints on fuel utilization in terms of emergency situation. So emergency situation, what is emergency situation? You would remember that we explained what emergency planning is. We said we are planning for any incident, right? Or for any crisis that is unplanned. So here we focusing on fuel utilization, meaning your substations are running with fuel. You are operating using a generator. So a generator has a fuel consumption, which is we are going to be discussing the hints on the fuel utilization in terms of the emergency situation. So the first hint is that you must bring the food to boil and place them in a hay box. So always in terms of you saving your fuel utilization, you must bring food to boil and put them in a hay box. And then the number 2 point is cook food until it's just done. You are not cooking it to you won't be cooking it to this word, it ran away, but you are not fully cooking the food. You are not fully cooking the food, but you are just cooking it for you to be able to chow the food, to be able to consume the food. So you are not fully cooking it, but you are cooking it just for you to be able to eat it. So that's what this point refers to. Then point number 3: do not cook food that can be eaten raw. For instance, there are vegetables that you can eat raw, which is carrots. You must not waste fuel in cooking carrots, or you must not waste fuel. Let's say you want to prepare green salad, so you must not waste fuel, guys, cooking something that can be eaten raw. So we can make a coleslaw using cabbage without cooking it. So rather cooking it, you can eat it raw. So that's what this point emphasizes. It says you must not cook food that can be eaten raw. Your Viennas, you eat them raw, you can eat them raw. And then eliminate the use of heat altogether. So do not increase or use the in terms of you cooking. Instead of you using switching on, let's say for instance you're using a generator. Instead of you switching all 4 plates at once, reduce the heat and use 2. At least use 2 to avoid generator running out faster, because when you turn on 4 plates while you are connecting on a generator, you are going to consume a lot of fuel from the generator, guys. So that's all this point emphasizes. So instead of you switching 4 plates, switch 2 and use 2 plates to cook. So meat, porridge, girdle cakes can be cooked on top of a fire, or while sweet potatoes and onion can be placed in ashes. So they saying meat, porridges and potatoes, you can cook them by smoking them. So you can wrap them with the foil, you can put them under or on top. You can just make an Nestle fire where you organize the woods and you start your own fire, and those items that I've just listed, they can be cooked on you exposing them to fire heat. So number 2. So I think I listed a lot of points, but I just wanted to tell you that take 3 from the hints of fuel utilization. You must have your best 3. Right? Why am I saying this? Is because most of the time the examiner likes asking 3. So as you see that we have about 3 hints, so they might ask you 3 hints for fuel utilization, 3 hints for water conservation, 3 hints for the use of food. So it can be a 9-mark question. So don't study more than 3 points. I think it's best for you to have 3 points on each hint. So yeah, and then here we are jumping to hints for water conservation. So hints for water conservation. The first 3 points that I'm going to be sharing: keep the syrup or other liquid from tinned products. So these are the hints that you're going to use if there's no water, guys. So here they're saying hints for water conservation, conservive. So you're going to use that water that you normally throw away, especially if you have baked beans. It normally contains something like a syrup or liquidish inside it. So most of the tins, they have liquid. So here they say in a water crisis situation, you as a hospitality student must know that if you are going to be cooking something that comes from tins, that water inside it, you are not going to throw it away, but you are going to use it for cooking, right? That is your first point. So we doing hospitality. We know making of sauces contains of what? Wine. We are going to use wine. So here they say wine and beer can be used for drinking. Oh, they're even allowing us to drink, guys. They say we can, instead of drinking, if there's no water, if we are facing a water crisis situation, we can have a beer or wine for drinking, right? We can have a beer or wine. Is the point in the textbook. It says you can have a wine or a beer. So you can list that when you are listing your points in exam. Then the third point is do not use too much salt in your food. Why are they forbidding the usage of salt? Too much salt would cause you more thirsty, would make you more thirsty. You're going to be thirsty a lot of the times. So you would picture this when you eat salty food. You often would want to drink water. Why? Salt often would lead you to being thirsty most of the times, right? So salt will often lead you to be thirsty most of the times. So hints for the use of food. Now we on the last part. I'm going to be checking the 3 points hints for the use of food. So the first point is hints for the use of food. So meat and cooked meat dishes in the freezer. So you're going to put the meat in the freezer, whether meat is cooked or is not. You're going to put them in a dish inside a freezer, and then you're going to what? Another point is the contents of a freezer which contains both cooked and raw meat cuts should be used in the following order. Use cooked food firstly because cooked food thaws more quickly than raw meat. So here they're saying that on your first point, you said you're going to put meat, whether it's a cooked meat or uncooked meat, inside a container. You're going to put them where? Inside a freezer, right? You're not going to store them on a refrigerator temperature, but rather on a freezing point. So then they say to you, because if you have put them inside a container, ensure you eat the ones that you have cooked first. So your point number 2 is you eat the ones that you have pre-cooked or you have cooked first, because they tend to what? Thaw. They will be the quickest products that would thaw. And then the other one is that evacuation. So evacuation, you are going to what? To be sealing the food into plastics. You're going to be extracting oxygen. So you're going to be putting the meat inside a plastic and ensuring that there's no amount of oxygen that will be found inside to avoid the food getting spoiled quickly. So evacuation is a form of method to preserve food. So evacuation it's a form of you preserving food. So now the last point is preserve food. You can say preserve food instead of evacuation. You can say preserve food. You're going to get the mark for that. And then list food that should be packed during evacuation. So the food that needs to be packed during evacuation, number one is cheese, biltong, canned fish, canned meat, groundnuts, raisins, dry yogurt, crackers, chocolates, evaporated milk powder. So any 8 of these, so you can write them down, any 8. So here, to be safe, you just need to know 8. So there are chances that they might not even show up, but just write 8 and study 8. So because we don't know what the examiner would want to test next time during your final exams. So write 8 of the food that can be packed during evacuation. So ensure that you know the 8 at least. We said it's cheese, biltong, canned fish, canned meat, groundnuts, raisins, dry food, milk powder, and condensed milk. You can have them listed, cream, all of those. You can just list at least 8. Must be able to give 8. And then possible menus in emergency cases. So here they're saying these are the menus that will help you survive in these emergency situations. So the food that you are going to be eating will help you to last longer. So if we are facing a crisis where we are facing load shedding for about a month, so how are we going to survive this load shedding, guys? So basically that's what this thing refers to, possible menus in emergency cases. So for breakfast, your day one, you can eat pre-cooked cereals, scrambled eggs, and then between meals you have your crackers. Tea time, you just drink milk. Lunch, your braised meat and liquor. Your braised meat with mixed vegetables. And then between meals you also drink a coffee or milk. Tea time, you can just eat biscuits. Supper, meatballs instead of mashed potato, bread, margarine and jam, tomato juice. So for late night you can have dry biscuits. So this is the menu that you can give or you can have for emergency cases. And then your day two, you still having to eat pre-cooked cereals, cheese, whole wheat bread, crackers, milk, grilled meat, milk or coffee, biscuits, cream tomato soup. On your supper you can have a cream tomato soup, and late night you can just take dry biscuits. Day 3, same thing, pre-cooked cereals, can have a fruit yogurt, crackers. For tea time you drink milk. For lunch you have a roasted chicken, and then between meals you drink milk or coffee. And then tea time you have biscuits, and supper you have a braised meat with a tin honey tomato juice, and then late night you have dry biscuits again. So those are the possible menus in emergency cases, guys. So if there's no water, let's say there's no water, remember we said we don't want to eat something that will require us to feel thirsty. We don't want salty food. So here they say for breakfast you can have fruits. Any fruit, day one can have fruit. So between meals you can have crackers. So tea time you must drink a fruit juice, and then a lunch you can have a salamona or a tin fish. And then between meals you also drink a fruit juice. So if there's no water you can drink fruit juice. So fruit juice is highly recommended for you, especially if there's no water. So those are the meals that you can have if there's no power. So the first one were the meals that you can have if there's no water. Then the second one is the meals that you can have if there's no power. And with that being said, we are nearly on our last part, which is the directives for the storage of the food. So the directives of the storage of food. So directive is instructions on how long food can be stored. So it's directions on how long food can be stored. So for milk fluid, so evaporated milk, skimmed milk powder, they can be stored for about 6 months, right, in shelves. So maximum storage is 6 months for milk. So examiner would ask these things. So go to your last page, I think it's page 32. Check that table. You must be able to know sugar. Okay, it can last for like 18 months inside your cupboards. You need to know that malicious things, they can last around 18 months to 24 months. Fats and oil, 12 months. You cannot have a 4 liter of oil for 2 years, guys. It can't. It's not possible. You need to have it for at least 12 months. Sugar, sweeteners, you can have them for, okay, sugar is infinite sugar, and then other sweeteners are 18 months to 12 months. And then fruits and vegetables, 6 months. You cannot have fruits or vegetables for more than 6 months. It's totally forbidden for you to do such. Cereals and baked goods, 6 to 12 months. And tinned stuff, I said 18 months to 12 or even 6 months. So it will all depend on what. If it's a tin fish, it's 6 months. Especially if they like stocking those tin fishes, you must know, guys, that they need to stay for at least 6 months inside storage. And then that's all for this part, which is the final part of module 1. So I will be coming to module 2 soon, and module 3 for preparation for your test 1s and test 2s. So I will try to push as hard as possible, guys. So ensure that you show some love by subscribing and turning on that notification bell for new updates or uploads. And if you have any questions regarding our tutoring services, the flyers are always at the end of the video. You can also join our WhatsApp group chat, which is for free. You just go to our YouTube profile. You would find the link on top there. You just click see more, then there is a link for you to join our public group. So see you guys on the next video.